Are you a writer thinking about using Save the Cat, or perhaps you're a writer who's already tried using Save the Cat and for some reason it just didn't work for you? Well, in this video, I'm going to explain exactly why. What's up, guys? Dave Jacobson here, best-selling author and book publisher. In today's video, we're going to talk all about Save the Cat. First, I'm going to give you an introduction for those who aren't familiar with what it is. We're going to talk about the specific 15 beats that it teaches. And then I'm going to tell you why Save the Cat is just not enough to get you over the finish line in terms of finishing a novel. Finally, I'm going to tell you what is enough. So make sure you stick around to the end. So without further ado, guys, I'm going to shrink my melon-sized head, and we're going to get right into the heart of this video. Starting with this article here. So this is an article. I'm going to put a link in the description in case you're interested in checking it out. And it's on Newbie to Novelist website. And I just found this article. I thought it was a good starting point to introducing Save the Cat and its 15 beats structure. I'm not going to read this article. We're not going to spend too much time in here, but I'm going to use it just as a starting point and a launch pad for our discussion today. So for those of you who don't know what Save the Cat is, basically it is a method for outlining. It was originally developed by a guy named Blake Snyder, and it was originally intended for screenwriting, but it's been picked up over the years and become popularized among novelists and writers as well. And the reason for that is it does give specific beats that you can use in your plot structure that can help you basically plot or outline a book, right? So, this person says there's no right or wrong way to outline a book or to plot a book. I'm not sure I 100% agree with that. I know that people like to say that to make people feel good and warm inside, but I think there are wrong ways to write books because there are ways that that are going to be less efficient than others, and you can take 10 years to write a book, or you can write a book in months if you have a better system. But before we get into that, I'm going to save that for another day's topic. Let me just explain for those who aren't familiar with Save the Cat exactly what it is. Then we're going to get into why it's not enough and what you need instead. So Save the Cat was a book written by Blake Snyder. And basically, again, it provides a lot of information about story structure, some of the most basic common elements within every popular story, and tries to talk about what every good story needs, right? And if you study this stuff and you understand it, then it can certainly help you to write better stories, and it's going to help you with your craft. So first of all, before I provide sort of my analysis on why it doesn't go far enough, I'm going to say that it is a great tool for, especially for beginner writers. If you're looking to learn sort of some of the most important beats in every good story, then definitely I would recommend checking it out. But before you do that, let's talk a little bit more about exactly what it is and why it is good, and then why it's not so good. So, it's called Save the Cat because in the book it talks about how, one thing that every good story needs is basically a sympathetic hero, right? You need your audience to identify with your protagonist. If they don't care about your protagonist, they're not going to care about what happens to the protagonist, and they're not going to read your book, right? So that's so I think the idea is, if you have your hero saving a cat, then that's going to develop that sympathy or that empathy for your protagonist, and it's going to help your audience connect with the protagonist. And so basically have your protagonist doing something that's going to make them more empathetic is going to help you right out of the gate with establishing that connection with your audience, right? So that's where the title comes from. But the main reason that, a lot of writers love it is because of this part right here, right? It shares 15 beats that, in this writer's opinion, right, Blake Snyder's opinion, are crucial for any good story. Some of them are optional, but most of them are absolutely critical. And so I'm not going to go into these in detail, but I'll just list them off real quickly. Again, I'll put the link in the description if you want to find out more. But one of the beats is the opening image. Another beat is theme stated, setup, catalyst, debate, break into 2, B story, fun and games, midpoint, bad guys, close in, all is lost, dark night of the soul, break into act 3, finale, and final image, right? So those are the 15 beats. Now I'm going to pull this up right here. This is kind of like a more of a visual that you can use to see some of these in terms of a map, right? So this is, this visual shows you how they relate to each act, right? So act 1 has these beats and act 2 has these beats, and etc. So far so good, right? I agree that these are all good beats to think about potentially incorporating into your story. I don't have a problem with this book from a perspective of the actual plot points that it discusses. I think a lot of these are present in most, popular works of fiction as well as movies. But the problem, now we're going to get into the real meat of this video, right? The problem is that a lot of authors seem to think that if they know the Save the Cat beats, that is going to help them go from a vague idea of what their novel they want to write about is all the way to the finish line, right? If I just learn the beats and then I'm good to go. That's all I need, right? Well, that is a problem for 2 reasons, okay? The first reason is that Save the Cat, the book, does not tell you how to write each beat for your particular project. What do I mean by that? Well, let's say you want to write a book about mermaids, right? And you have this premise for a mermaid that can't swim. Let's just say, I'm just making up a random idea in my head, right? Well, you've got a problem. You've got a potentially sympathetic hero, but it doesn't tell you, okay, how do I go from that vague idea that I have to choosing an appropriate theme-stated beat? What is an appropriate catalyst for my mermaid story? What is an appropriate break into 2? What should my midpoint be? What should my all is lost moment be? Right? Notice that nothing about Save the Cat beats explains that to us, and nothing about the story itself, just the vague idea I had, right away tells me what these beats should be. So what that means is you're still going to have writer's block. You're still going to get stuck. You're still going to, even though you have these beautifully thought out beats that you can look at, study, and learn, you're still going to have to figure out on your own what the beats should be in your particular project. And that is no easy feat, guys. Coming up with, if you've ever tried to do this before, then I'm preaching to the choir right now. You know what I'm talking about. It's not easy to just sit down and all of a sudden, okay, I know it's about this and these are the beats. I'm gonna throw a theme stated in there. And this is what my catalyst should be. And this is what the break into 2 should be. No, that's not easy at all. So that's number 1, deficiency or shortcoming of Save the Cat. In other words, it does not go far enough to help you understand how to come up with these beats given your particular project. So that's shortcoming number 1. Shortcoming number 2 is, and the reason I pulled up this particular visual is that I think it kind of sums it up nicely for me. The second main shortcoming is there's still a lot of gaps to fill out or fill in between the beats identified, right? So let's say I know that I've read the book, I've learned about theme stated, I've read the book, I've learned about catalyst. I know what my theme, let's say you can come up with your theme stated. Let's say you're able to do that and you're able to come up with a catalyst that works well for your story, right? Okay, well then the next question is, what do I write in between those beats, right? I have a character state my theme. Great. That'll take 1 sentence. How do I fill out the next 5,000 words between that and the catalyst? Or however many words, depending on what genre you're writing, right? What comes next? What fills in the blank? And as you can see here, like for example, Act 2A, between the B story and the midpoint, we're supposed to have fun and games, right? But what are those fun and games going to be for your project? And how do you put your characters in the context of those fun and games? How do these beats tie together? How do they relate to one another? How can you use these beats to actually write prose that's going to carry you 10, 20,000 words through Act 2? Well, guess what? Save the Cat can't tell you that. It doesn't try to tell you that. Nothing about these beats implies anything about that stuff. So that's the second main shortcoming of Save the Cat. Again, I'm not hating on Save the Cat. Save the Cat is great insofar as it can help you understand the beats. But if you're a newbie author and you're trying to figure out, or you're an intermediate or advanced author and you're trying to figure out, how do I get from a vague idea to coming up with these beats and writing everything in between the beats? Well, this book is not going to do that for you guys. I'm sorry, it's just not going to do it. And if you try it, you'll see for yourself that you're going to still come across writer's block. Even if you have your theme stated in your catalyst, you're going to sit down at a blank page staring at you in the face and you're going to say, what do I do now? Right? So that leads us to this next and final point. What do you need in addition to Save the Cat? Or in addition to the hero's journey? Or in addition to whatever plot structure you're comfortable using? What do you need to get you from this vague idea at the beginning when you first have an idea for a novel all the way through to the finish line where you have a completed manuscript? And guys, I'm not going to tell you all of the secrets in this video. If you want them, I encourage you to subscribe and like, but I'm going to dangle a little carrot right now, and I'm going to tell you high level exactly what you need. What you need is a process. You need a system, a step-by-step process that can take just a tiny little grain of sand idea for your novel all the way through to the finished manuscript. Now, part of that process is going to involve mapping out specific plot points. Yes. So you still need to know the beats. You still need to be familiar with the most common plot points within a structure, but you also need to figure out how to write those plot points based on your specific idea. And you need a process to do that. You need something that you can consistently use that'll tell you, hey, I know that I have this for the title of my working title for my book, or I have this as my premise. Now, how do I take that and turn it into a theme stated? How do I take that premise and turn it into an appropriate catalyst or an appropriate midpoint for my story? How do I know what the ending should be if I only have a title? How do I get from point A all the way to the finish line, point Z? And in order to do that, you need a process that's going to handhold you, basically deliver for you on a silver platter. Hey, this is what you have to do next. Because if you don't have steps to follow, you're going to get there and you're going to sit there and you're going to get to the theme stated, or you're going to get to the catalyst, and you're going to be stuck. You're going to say, what do I do next? Because you don't have a system or a process. Guys, if I am resonating with you, if this is something that sounds like it makes perfect sense to you and you've tried outlining and you've gotten stuck in these ways that I'm identifying for you, then I highly encourage you to subscribe, hit the alert bell so you'll get the notification when I put out the next video, and put in the comments, yes, Dave, I want to learn a specific process or system for how to go from just a vague idea for my novel all the way to the finish line. And if I get enough interest and enough people liking, subscribing this video, sharing it, whatever, commenting and telling me, yes, Dave, this is what we need, help us, then I my promise to you is I will start making those videos ASAP. Okay? Now, it's going to take more than one video to explain a good process to you. But the good news is I have developed a process. I have a system now that I use, and I've developed this over more than a decade of writing that works for me very well in terms of identifying for me and delivering for me on a silver platter. Hey, this is what your opening image should be. Hey, this is what your theme stated should be. Hey, this is what your midpoint should be. So if that sounds like something you guys are interested in, or if you just got any value at all from this video, please consider liking, subscribing, and I'll see you next time.